They refuse to let us have online rights, and the BBC refuses not to take online rights. There are so many examples of that kind of thing, which is going to lead me on to distributors, which we haven't really talked about yet. There are sales agents everywhere who spend their lives negotiating these difficulties, who are absolutely expert in finding ways around these, and there are ways. And it's well worth researching them. If you're looking at a co-production, rather than just going out yourself, flying to 5 festivals and thinking, I'm going to grab the commissioning editors, I'll put the money together, I would have one phone conversation with one distributor or one sales agent and let them see what they think. But the pitfall of that is a lot of people will try to say, if I deficit fund your film as a distributor, if I give you $30,000, I'll take all the world rights for distribution. Then suddenly you find yourself with $30,000 and no way of raising the rest of the money. And that's happened to at least 4 of my films in the last few years, that there's someone that's like, well, I can't do that. BBC Worldwide are giving me the money, and the film never gets made. So you have to be, there's always complexity there.
No caso da TV Cultura é um pouco diferente, porque nós não somos distribuidores. E geralmente quando se faz alguma venda via direitos de distribuição pela Cultura Marcas, que é raro, já existe um acerto no contrato que é muito claro o percentual de cada participante. Dos dois lados, se o parceiro coprodutor vender, a nossa parte está preservada, e se nós vendermos, a nossa parte também está preservada. E isso eu acho que é isso facilita porque nosso interesse evidentemente, fomentar a produção e também a nossa grade de programação. Quando entramos num projeto, o nosso interesse maior é a difusão. Né? Os direitos por X tempo para a difusão e a questão financeira já está previamente acertada, quer dizer, até hoje a gente não teve problemas com essa base. Evidentemente que isso facilita muito porque não somos distribuidores. E a gente tem os direitos também de usar na internet e também o direito de exibir, mas isso já está tudo acertado em contrato e não tem outro jeito, até por ser uma emissora pública, tem algumas normas, algumas regras, e isso facilita bastante.
Bill, you got a question?
Yeah.
Comment?
To what you just said, I'm listening to myself in my ears. In Portuguese. Sound better in Portuguese. I have to say that because I've done so many Canadian, French, and others co-productions, France and Canada have very protective systems. It can drive you nuts if you're a Canadian co-producer working with another partner. Typically what can happen, every production will go wrong in some way or another. Know it. It will take either a piece of your flesh or a piece of your soul. But you can live through it. It's quite fun. But the problem that you have to also learn to do as producers, now I'm talking to you as producers who have to know not only how to make your system work for you, but you also have to know how to get around your system to make it work for your production. And one of the worst things that can happen, for instance, especially if you're with the Brits, because all they care about is getting the best production in the world. So, I know, it can drive you crazy, and they're very arrogant about it as well. And so if you're there as this kind of so-called independent/dependent producer, and all of a sudden you find that your director doesn't actually understand the film he's supposed to be making, the Brits will say, well, let's get the best director in the world. And you're saying, oh no, he's Canadian. He fits into my point system. My bureaucrats back home won't accept a Czechoslovakian director, or whatever. So these are the kinds of problems that you have to find out about. And you have to work him around to understanding that you need flexible rules. And you need to be able to work in the international marketplace to bring in the best people. You also need to work with the best people in the world. because that's the only way you're going to become better directors or better producers. So know these are the problems of a subsidy system. The other thing you also have to worry about is people on subsidies are sometimes called welfare recipients. And so you don't want to become that status either. You want to be making the best films in the world, even better than the Brits.
Yes, I have to say something because there's so many stories about how difficult it is. I have an example, which is maybe the other side, or vice versa. We have made now bilateral cooperation with the Channel 5 in St. Petersburg, Russia. And it's not very easy to work with them, but we have done it. We don't use any money. They put the archives, some research, some people, maybe the editing, and then we put our share, and the contract is only one sheet of paper. And we never had any difficulties, but the trick is that we don't sell it to the third partner.
And it works. We've got a question from the floor. Could you just tell us who you are?
No, it's not a question, it's more to share an experience about the international co-production. I think as a producer, you should, from the beginning, be ready for all the tough examples you gave already, and discuss with your director, and be sure that the director you are working with is able to understand the fact that the film might be, for example, in length different than the one he had in mind. Some countries and some people want to do a 90-minute film for different reasons. Many reasons because it looks more cinema, and 90 minutes is a kind of fantasy, and you think that 90 minutes will be better. But in the international market, 52 minutes, even less, 47, 48 minutes, is the actual normal length. So if you do a nice 90-minute film, that's a possibility, but then you have to be ready to invest and to count in your budget from the beginning. You will edit a 52-minute version for the international market. If you don't do that in advance, that will be frustrating for the director, that will cost you a lot of money at the end, because both of your partners won't accept to have a different length than the one they are expecting. So we just did recently for Arte a documentary about nuclear waste. It was for Arte, it was almost 100 minutes the length, and that was Sundance Channel was co-producing, and they had a 70-minute version of the film. So, and obviously not exactly the same film, but the director was ready from the beginning. We had prepared him in a psychological way. In a sense. We need the money from the US, but they will have a 70-minute version, and then that went very smoothly at the end. But you have to think about that all in advance.
Thank you very much. We've got some comments. I think Greg has hand up first, and then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think I'll completely echo that, and I want to tell a happy story rather than a bad one, because it's all about being flexible and being pragmatic, being sensible. And if you do that from the outset, then you can make these very difficult deals work. I had just done a film which I really wanted to do on a coup attempt in an obscure African country that no one else was really interested in, except for one broadcaster in the States, WNET. Now, if you'd done what I suggested and watched the output of WNET and watched the output of Storyville, you'd see they're very, very far apart stylistically. But we decided that was the only way it was going to get done. So from the outset, the director said, I'll make the version I want to make for Storyville, and I will make the American version to get the money so I can make the film at all. He did that, it went out to fantastic acclaim in the United States, and it's going out in the UK tomorrow, having been fully funded, and I think we'll do very well. So if you think about it sensibly, it can actually work very well indeed.
My point of view is just a bit practical. Arte is, as I said, a French-German cultural channel, and of course we need the rights for both France and Germany. But I can throw a little positive light on this European rights. That you can open up as producers, we open up a window for rights after the period of exclusive rights. So then you can go to another German station or another French station with the project. It's a possibility.
Acho que vou falar em português também. Tem um ponto que eu acho que é muito importante também, porque além dos dois coprodutores, a gente tem que lembrar que tem os clientes que cada um está trazendo. Então, muitas das vezes, eu como produtor brasileiro estou querendo contentar o meu canal aqui e o meu parceiro produtor francês está querendo contentar o canal que ele está atendendo lá. Então, essa questão de realmente se acordar desde o começo quais são os pontos e o que a gente está fazendo, qual é o tema, qual a relevância para os dois lugares, e como é que a gente vai fazer isso, para onde tem que viajar depois, qual a nossa expectativa de viagem desse produto, isso tudo é realmente muito importante para que a gente possa focar no produto e não nas discussões durante o processo todo.